I never thought coming home would feel like walking into someone else's life. After years in the army, after deployments and missions that tore me away piece by piece, I imagined my return would be the moment everything made sense again. My family, my future, my peace. But when I stepped off that plane, carrying the weight of uniforms and scars, the first thing I noticed wasn't the warm smiles or the familiar smells. It was silence, the kind that presses down on your chest, thick and heavy, like a fog you can't shake. Emily was there, waiting at the gate. Her smile was polite, but her eyes didn't quite meet mine. She hugged me tight, but something in her touch was distant, rehearsed. Her daughter, Lily, barely noticed me at first, clinging to her mother's leg like I was a stranger she didn't know. I tried to hide my confusion, telling myself the transition was hard for all of us, that maybe she was just tired. But the more days passed, the more the distance grew, like a wall I couldn't climb. I was back, but the life I left behind had moved on without me. Emily had new routines, new friends, and late nights she said were for work. I wanted to believe her, to trust the woman I married, but late one night, scrolling through my phone, a message popped up. A simple, "Can't wait to see you again," from a name I didn't recognize. It wasn't just words, it was the crack in the foundation of everything I thought was solid. The hardest part wasn't that she was with someone else. It was that she had started to live a different life, one where I was no longer the man she needed, the husband she loved. That she had given pieces of herself away to someone else while I was still trying to piece myself together from war. I sat in the dark, replaying memories. Her laughter, our first dance, the way she used to look at me when everything felt right. Now those moments felt like ghosts. I wasn't angry yet. Not really. I was broken, lost in the echo of a home that no longer felt like mine. I didn't know then how this story would end. All I knew was that something had changed, and I wasn't sure if I could ever go back.
The days that followed were a blur of quiet dinners and half-hearted conversations. Emily's smiles felt forced, and her eyes darted away whenever I looked too closely. I tried to find her in the little things, the way she brewed her coffee, the way she folded Lily's clothes, the way she'd hum softly while cooking dinner. But it was like chasing a shadow. The woman I knew was there, but she was distant, distracted, trapped somewhere I couldn't reach. I kept telling myself I was just tired too, that the war had taken more from me than just my body. The nightmares that stole my sleep, the flashbacks that came when I least expected them. Maybe her distance was a reflection of my own brokenness. Maybe we were both prisoners of a war that never really ended. But then came the signs I couldn't ignore. A text left open on her phone, a whispered phone call she hurried to take another room, late nights out with friends that never included me, and the scent, her perfume mixed with something else, something unfamiliar and sharp that lingered on her clothes when she came home. One afternoon, I stayed late at work, my mind racing with suspicion and hope I didn't want to admit. When I got home, the house was quiet, too quiet. I found her in the backyard, talking softly on the phone, smiling in a way that wasn't meant for me. I watched from the window as she leaned in close to whoever was on the other end, her hand brushed against her chest, fingers trembling slightly. That night, I couldn't sleep. The weight in my chest grew heavier, a knot tightening every time I closed my eyes. I thought of Lily, innocent and unaware, and how the world I once promised her was crumbling around us. I thought of Emily, the woman I loved and who was slipping away, and I wondered if there was still a chance to save what was left. I knew I had to face the truth, no matter how much it hurt, because living in denial was a battle I was losing, and the war at home was far from over.
I spent countless sleepless nights replaying every moment we shared, every smile, every touch, every quiet evening, searching for cracks I hadn't noticed before. The more I tried to hold on to the past, the more I realized that beneath the surface of our life together, everything was slowly unraveling. Emily was still there physically, but the woman I came home to felt like a ghost, a stranger hiding behind the face of someone I once loved deeply. I wanted to confront her, to ask all the questions burning inside me, but whenever I tried to speak, the words got stuck in my throat like shards of glass slicing through my heart. One evening, I decided to come home early from work. I clung to a desperate hope. Maybe I'd catch a glimpse of the wife I once knew, the woman who would wait for me by the door, whose eyes would light up whenever I walked through it. But instead, the house was empty and cold, filled only with a silence so loud it deafened me. It wasn't the absence of sound. It was the absence of her, the absence of us. On the kitchen counter, I saw her phone, unlocked and glowing faintly in the dim light. My heart raced, and a part of me screamed to turn away, to preserve whatever fragile hope I had left. But curiosity, or maybe something darker, pulled me in. I swiped through her messages, hesitating at first, then reading faster as a sinking feeling settled deep in my chest. There it was, laid bare before me. Conversations with a man named Marcus. Flirty texts filled with secretive undertones, messages arranging meetings, promises whispered in digital ink between her shifts at work, and the pictures. Photos of Emily smiling, leaning close to Marcus in places I'd never been invited to. Scenes from bars and hotel rooms she never told me about. The photos felt like cold punches to the gut, each one tearing away a little more of the life I thought we had. I sank to the floor, the phone slipping from my numb fingers, and the world tilted sideways. It was like the ground gave way beneath me, and I was falling endlessly into a void of betrayal and disbelief. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a mistake. This was a life she had built without me, right under my nose. A life I wasn't part of anymore. I tried to wrap my mind around the timeline. How long had this been going on? How many late nights were lies? How many times had she smiled at me while her heart was miles away? The worst part wasn't just the physical betrayal. It was the emotional abandonment. She wasn't simply with another man. She was slowly leaving me behind, piece by piece, like I was something she no longer needed or wanted. For days, I carried the weight of this secret alone, haunted by the images and words I'd seen. I felt trapped in a nightmare where I was both the victim and the fool. I replayed every conversation in my head, every moment of silence between us, trying to find where I'd failed, where things had gone wrong. Eventually, the truth could no longer be hidden, and I confronted her. My voice was barely a whisper, cracking beneath the burden of everything I'd swallowed. She didn't deny it, didn't fall apart or beg for forgiveness. She looked at me with tired, hollow eyes and said, "I'm sorry, Jason. I didn't mean for it to happen this way." But sorry wasn't enough. It never was. Not for what was broken between us, not for the trust that was shattered, not for the family that was falling apart. I left that night, unable to stay in a home that no longer felt like mine. Upstairs, Lily was asleep, innocent and unaware of the storm ripping through our lives. I packed a bag, not knowing where I'd go, only knowing that I had to get away. As I closed the door behind me, the silence of the empty house followed me out, louder and heavier than any words could ever be. I didn't pack like someone planning a new beginning. I packed like someone escaping a fire. A few shirts, a pair of boots, my shaving kit. I didn't even take my framed photo of Lily. I didn't have it in me to look her in the eyes, even in stillness. I left the house quietly, without slamming the door or writing a note. I didn't want a scene. I wanted distance. Miles of it. Silence between me and the woman I used to believe would be my last call before sleep and my first glance in the morning. I didn't cry. Not then. Not yet. But I was unraveling. I spent the first night in my truck, parked behind a gas station off the highway, engine off, heat fading from the vents while I sat there staring at the steering wheel like it held answers. I tried to sleep, but I kept hearing her voice, not confessing, not begging, just saying, "I'm sorry," like she dropped a glass, like she burnt dinner. I kept seeing her face, not crying, not ashamed, just blank, empty, like I'd become someone she used to know. The second night, I found a cheap motel, peeling wallpaper, buzzing light above the mirror, sheets that smelled like old cigarettes and detergent that couldn't keep up. I didn't care. It had 4 walls and a door I could lock, and no memory of her in it. I told no one. Not my brother, not my old army buddies, not even my coworker Paul, who once pulled me out of a bad spiral after my 3rd deployment. I didn't want pity, didn't want advice. I didn't even want company. I wanted to sit in my grief like a soldier in a foxhole, still, alert, silent, waiting for something to move. Emily didn't call, not once. And that hurt more than the betrayal itself. I don't know what I expected. An apology? A message saying she missed me, that she had made a mistake. I told myself I wouldn't answer even if she did. But that didn't stop me from checking my phone every hour like an addict waiting for a fix. She never texted, never asked if I was safe, never asked where I'd gone, never mentioned Lily. That silence, it hollowed me out. I thought the war had stripped me of everything soft. Turns out it only hardened the shell. Emily? She got past all that. She was the only one who ever did. She touched something raw in me, something that believed again. And now that part of me was dead, and there wasn't even a funeral. The nights dragged. I couldn't sleep for more than an hour without waking up in sweat. Sometimes I'd dream of her laughing with him. Sometimes it was worse. Her laughing with me, like nothing ever happened. The morning after those dreams always hit hardest. Waking up in a bed not mine, in a room that didn't care, to a world where the person I loved had chosen someone else, and done it without flinching. I started walking, at night, for miles. Just me and the cold air and the dull ache in my leg. Sometimes I ended up at the diner down the road, nursing a black coffee until sunrise, pretending I was just another stranger passing through. And maybe I was. People looked at me, sometimes recognizing the uniform in the way I sat, back straight, eyes alert, cup held with both hands. Some nodded, none spoke, and I liked it that way. No small talk, no questions, just space. I didn't think about healing. I didn't want closure. I wasn't ready to let go. Not of the pain, not of the memory. I wanted to feel it, fully, because pretending it didn't happen would have been a second betrayal, this time by me. I wasn't ready to forgive her. Hell, I wasn't ready to forgive myself.
There's no moment when it stops hurting. That's the first thing I had to understand. No sunrise where the grief vanishes, no final tear that washes it all away. No magic breath that makes you say, "Okay, now I'm over her." That moment doesn't come. It doesn't exist. What comes instead is something quieter, something heavier. The weight of understanding. The realization that some things just don't go back. Some things stay broken, no matter how long you stare at the pieces on the floor. I moved into a small rental, above a closed-down mechanic shop. The landlord was a Vietnam vet who didn't ask questions, just took my deposit and gave me the key with a nod like we had an unspoken contract. You don't dig into my past, I don't dig into yours. That suited me fine. I didn't want sympathy. I didn't want therapy slogans or "you'll find someone better." I wasn't ready for better. I wasn't even ready for normal. I spent my evenings fixing up the place. The kitchen faucet leaked, the drywall was cracked, the closet door wouldn't close right. It gave me something to do with my hands. Something quiet, something I could control. And after everything, control felt like oxygen. Emily didn't reach out. Not once. Not after I left, not after I changed my number, not after I quietly unfollowed her on everything. She didn't chase me, didn't ask how Lily was doing, didn't send some pathetic "I miss you" text at 2 a.m. And weirdly, that helped. It confirmed what I already knew. I was never the one she fought for. I was just the one she used to feel stable, until I wasn't enough. I visited Lily on weekends. The first time I picked her up, she ran out the door like nothing had changed. She hugged me so tight it knocked the wind out of me. That's what gutted me most. How children don't understand betrayal. How they still love with both hands wide open. I never spoke badly about her mom. I just listened when Lily talked, helped with homework, took her to the park, read her to sleep. That part of my life, the father part, was the only thing that still felt untouched, still felt mine. And maybe that's what saved me. There were nights I still woke up sweating, fists clenched, her name echoing in dreams that felt too real. Some mornings I'd catch myself staring at my reflection too long, not checking how I looked, just looking, trying to find the man inside, the one before the war, before the marriage, before all this. I didn't date, couldn't. Every smile from a stranger felt like a risk I wasn't willing to take. I wasn't scared of love, I just didn't trust my radar anymore. I'd chosen wrong once, deeply, destructively wrong, and the fallout nearly destroyed me. People talk about closure like it's something you get, a conversation, an apology, a reason. But sometimes closure is just accepting that you'll never understand, that someone you loved chose to lie, to cheat, to smile at you with a mouth that kissed someone else the same night, and that you'll never know why. So I let go of the why. I stopped needing the answers. Instead, I started showing up. For work, for Lily, for the version of myself that still had something left to give. Not because I was healed, not because I'd moved on, but because I had no other choice. Survival isn't poetic. It's not a sunrise or a speech. It's a slow crawl through quiet mornings, through nights that don't end, through the ache in your chest when you hear her name and pretend it doesn't land like a punch. It's learning to drink your coffee alone without shaking. It's cleaning the apartment and realizing the silence doesn't scream as loud as it used to. It's learning to stand without needing someone to lean on. So no, I didn't rise from the ashes. I just stopped sitting in them. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what surviving betrayal looks like, when you're not trying to prove anything to anyone, just trying to keep breathing.